All right, we should be live here. So everybody, let me know if you can see me and hear me and all that. You guys getting audio and video? Okay, good. Clear? Clear for everyone? Awesome. All right, so who of you there in the chat got readings? You can just put a me in the chat room. Okay, Alex, if you can't see anything, just go ahead and press play or on the video portion, or click reload your website, your web page. All right, Henrik, any comments about your reading? You guys can share any comments you have or anything you want to ask about it, or no, there's no. It's you don't need to have a webcam. You just need to have. You're not trying to broadcast. You're just trying to watch the video. Well, Henrik, what's the first thing that comes to mind then when you think about your reading? Okay, and we'll welcome Dave V, but he can't comment for whatever reason. So if anybody knows how to make the chat room work, let him know. I think you can read it. Cool, Dave. Thank you as well. All right, Henrik. Very, very good. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll text him that. Okay. Okay, good, Alex. You can see video now too. Yeah, there's something remarkably beautiful about mentalism and readings in general, and it's something that I've been super critical of and skeptical of over the last 10 or so years. Even though I did do a lot of study of the tarot, and I figured we might start with a little bit of that tonight. And then the goal, like I said, is by the end of this is, even if you wanted to start tonight or today, wherever you are, I know for some of you it's in the morning, doing readings for other people and having the kind of effect like what you see Henrik reporting right now about his reading, having that kind of effect with people, and even more profound effects. And often the predictions that you do as a reader will come true. Now, trying to explain the mechanism of exactly how that works is a really complicated subject matter, especially if we're trying to just talk about it and communicate it. So that's something you can reason out on your own or explore if it's interesting to you. But what we're trying to do tonight is it'll give you the secret behind all mentalism and how it actually works. And then from there, answer your questions. And then we'll go through some techniques that you can actually apply. Like I said, immediately after the broadcast, you could go out and use this stuff and do actual readings for other people. And some of you will find you already have a lot more skills and talents with it than you realize. And so that's kind of fun and interesting too, if that happens. So, anyway, any other questions so far? Who got a tarot reading? And did anyone here who's logged in right now get a tarot reading? Okay, cool. Interesting observation, Mike. Alex, I thought I sent yours. I can check right now, but we won't spend too much more time here. I'm just kind of waiting for people to make sure everyone's here. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah, Alex, check your mail or let me see what email it was sent to. Anyway, we won't spend much time on that, but if you don't get it, let me know, and then you can get it later on. I'll send it to you later. Yeah, I don't know that I sent it to you. Actually, here, I'll do it right now. Alex. Reading. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and send him his reading. You guys, I want to hear more about what you thought, honestly, about the reading that you got. There's Alex. And Alex, you should have that at your Gmail accounts now. Okay. Who is that there at Theleneg? Some people bought just this morning, and I did. Oh, Arlene. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I saw you got a ticket or not, but I believe I sent you a reading today. Let me check and make sure. Arlene. No, I did not do one for you, but I will send one in. I'm not sure if you made it in on the list in time. I didn't see it there, but if I did, just email me if I missed it, and I will send you one. Yeah, Mike, that is true, and we'll get into some details about that too. Mike says, and actually now, for those of you watching the replay, I'm going to actually repeat the things that are in the chat room because that doesn't come as part of the video, unfortunately. So Mike says, I feel like it would have had more of an effect had it been presented live rather than a document I could read over a few times. And he's talking about his reading, because then when you actually go back and analyze it, you can, depending on what you already know, you're going to be able to pick it apart in different ways. Yeah. However, Mike, if you respond just to your initial reading of it, just your initial impression of it, like you said, there's times where it felt like it rang true. That's kind of what we're going for. Now, the other thing is if there's things you noticed about your reading where I was not accurate, that would be interesting to present as well. But yeah, so one thing I thought that would be interesting to do is if any of you have any experience with tarot cards, I thought it would be fun to do a quick reading for all of us as a group. So in relation to this effort, so let's say, what's going to happen as a result of this? Are some people going to become mentalists? Yeah, Mike, I figured that too. That's funny because the audience for this is very different than the audience you're going to be working for if you go out and do readings for people. But yeah, there's some profound things about mentalism and about the readings that you'll discover as you actually start to do readings for other people. So I don't want to try and cover that too much. So before I tell you the big secret behind mentalism that's going to make all the other things possible and make it a lot more obvious why you've studied or focused on things that you focus on in your life. Before we do that, let's do a quick tarot reading. I want somebody to volunteer who's there in the chat room. Somebody volunteer, and then you're going to read 3 cards, like a past, present, and future. So we're trying to get a projection for this group of, how these skills are going to affect you, how this might change your life to become aware of how to do this stuff. I still don't know if it's really if it's going to seem as profound to anybody else as it does to me, but learning this stuff really catapulted my mind into a new place, and my level of awareness and observation skills just through the roof after learning this. All right, so anybody who wants to do the tarot reading, okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and finish shuffling these. Cut the deck. And we'll just do 3 cards. Past, present, future. So here's the past card. So just go ahead and start with your reading for all of us. And if you hone in on a specific person, that's fine too. But just do your best. And here's the first card. Hopefully everyone can see it. It's the Empress. So I'll keep that up there, and then I'll read what he says. Now also Mike was saying about his reading, I think part of it was also that this was a secretive mentalism exercise, and I was more on guard for tricks than I would have been, because I've had a few past experiences in the same vein that blew me away. Yeah, what's interesting to me is even understanding all this stuff, I still watch Darren Brown and other performers, and even when I know how some parts of it are being done, it still blows my mind what they're able to achieve with it. Yeah, go ahead and do the reading. Go ahead. You're actually doing the reading for us. The Empress. Anybody else that wants to, you can just chime in. Tell me what you see or what comes to mind with this. Jesus. Okay. Lecter fan says Jesus. Anyway, just go ahead and give us a reading here. Nothing to be afraid of. You're just typing in a chat room. All right. It looks like maybe... Okay, cool. He says, I see we're all searching. Keep typing. Let's have a steady stream of free association. Let's give that a shot, Lecter fan. Just type whatever comes to mind. Don't question it or edit it. He says, okay, I see we're all searching. We've all studied God knows what. And found most of it a little wanting. Just keep on typing. And Dave says, cool tarot reading. He mentions marriage. All right, so that's the past. So yeah, this is what brought us here, all the seeking and everything, and then you come, and hopefully Command Z is hopefully for everyone who spends any time there, the end of that kind of seeking. So we're going to do something a little bit different. So that's the past. So we're going to go from there to the present, and that is the Knight of Wands, or the King of Wands card. And we're going to wait for Lecter fan to interpret that for us. And anyone else who has a comment, just go ahead and spit it out. This is the present. Now, it's really clear to me what this means, so I'm going to go ahead and say a few things about it. With this card, what you have is the so-called, if we're going to talk about the magical elements, the fiery part of fire, so the King or the Knight of Wands. And what you see there is a fire that's just completely flaring up and exploding. So what this guy is doing, and then the wands stand for your will, stand for our collective will. And what this is we're going to I'm trying to accomplish something here in 1 hour that I think, maybe, I don't know if anyone has attempted this before. I think people have to some degree. But what I want is as many of you as possible to actually be going out and doing psychic readings starting tonight or this week. So that's represented in this card in the present. It's like we're going to put as much into this effort as possible. You can get the most out of it. If we miss the mark, maybe we waste our time. But if not, then you get the prize. You really will be able to accomplish a lot with it, and hopefully just in an hour and a half or so. And then finally, we have the future, and that's the priestess. So we moved from the emperor, empress, and then to the priestess. So what do we got here, Lector Fran? Now this one's interesting if you've studied magic at all before, or any of the Crowley kind of stuff. Yeah, new knowledge, but it's also not just new knowledge, but it's actually something beyond knowledge. It's actually this could be like, the obviously like the secret of mentalism. And like I said, the interesting thing is mentalism is actually the secret to reality. It's the secret behind how reality works. As far as I can tell, it's the clearest expression of how reality works. I would say every one of you watching this right now, all of you are already a mentalist. Everyone alive is already a mentalist to some degree. That's what you're doing with, your name and your character, your persona, who you are, your stories about yourself and your life and your tensions in your body. So you're always telling a story on some level. Now, how much you actually take charge of that story you're telling, and then what kind of ambiance it creates, and what kind of flow or non-flow or obstacle you have in your life is up to you. But hopefully these mentalist skills will then enable you to have more rapport with other people, more rapport with yourself, clearer observation. So this is moving across the so-called abyss, and you might even think of the abyss as sort of the black cloud that hovers above everything you think you know, but you don't know with 100% certainty. Okay, so that sort of blackness hovering around all the beliefs. And when you move past the beliefs into a new type of knowing or experiencing, then that's what's going on in this card. So that's what we have to look forward to in the future. If you take what you learn in the show tonight and apply it, then what you can hope for is to actually gain the rewards of living a life that's not so... It's funny because you're going to live a life that's less manipulated and less manipulative, and at the same time be able to create more of what you want and to align your desires with what you're experiencing as reality more smoothly. Okay, so there's our tarot reading for the course. So hopefully somebody kept some track of that on the writing, and we'll revisit and see if that comes true later. All right. So next, I'm just going to say what the basic secret of all mentalism is, and magic, stage magic, hypnosis, all these things, all these readings, is something called the prestige. So there was a movie called The Prestige. I don't know if it explored it very well. The movie was all right. Another one came out at the same time called The Illusionist that probably explored the concept of the prestige better than that movie with that name. But the big secret is the prestige. Now, it's the same thing. It's the same secret behind your current personality and the way that you live your life. The same secret behind that as behind all forms of mentalism. So how you can do readings starting right now, starting tonight, is first you want to decide what, let's say you're a touchy-feely type of person, you decide to do palm reading. Or if you are into tarot cards, do tarot cards. If you're a gambler, maybe you want to do a deck of playing cards. So the options are really limitless. If you want to do psychometry on objects, tell the history of an object. Or if you want to do psychic readings from a photo, that kind of thing. Any of those, the main ingredient that you need to make it all work is the prestige. Now, why I say it's the same thing that you're doing with your current personality is because everything that you believe to be yourself, everything you bring forth and express in your current personality and your history and your stories about yourself, you're so confident that it's true that other people treat you as if those things are true about you, which then reinforces your idea that your character is solid and real and that your history is real and has to keep impacting you in your life when it actually doesn't. Okay, so that's some stuff that we also explore in the Undoing and the Command Z courses and sessions and consultations and all that. But the basic idea is the same. The prestige is the great secret behind all of this. So I'm going to read a few different definitions of it and then where it comes from, because it's kind of interesting. And then we'll get into an actual technique you can use for doing your first psychic readings on people. And then we'll get into some questions and go a little deeper into some technique. Prestige. Respect and admiration felt for someone or something on the basis of their achievements or quality. Okay, now in the world of the web, your achievements and your quality, those can be just written up on an about page. You can create a Facebook page with a history. You could do as much or as little depth as you want, depending on the type of character you're building. Number 2, denoting something that arouses such respect or admiration. Synonyms: status, authority, reputation. Again, prestige, high status or reputation achieved through success, influence, wealth, power to influence or impress. And then it's via French from Latin, feats of juggling, tricks, apparently related to Latin, to bind tightly, and to blindfold, or to draw tight, or to bind. So it's feats of juggling and tricks. Another definition, the prestige, the level of respect at which one is regarded by others, or your standing. So now, depending on your standing and how people perceive you, that's how they're going to react to you. So if you're giving a reading, the prestige has to be high enough and believable enough that the person will take your statements in a certain way, in a sort of magical or mysterious way, and interpret them to be coming from some kind of external or magical source. And then also that it's high enough that when given a suggestion about the future, that the wonder and the sense of excitement about the rest of the reading and how much it resonates will then allow them to pretty much unconsciously self-fulfill the prophecies that you set out. So essentially you're like a gardener planting seeds for people. Now the interesting thing I want to cover about that, the prestige, is that there's less prestige for some reason in most therapeutic and psychological and psychotherapeutic contexts than there is in psychic readings and in tarot readings, astrology readings, and whatnot. Now depending on where you are on the planet, different places are going to be better or worse for different types of readings. You know, some places you might want to work on restaurant magic, or other places you might want to work on stage hypnosis, and in other places you might want to call it body reading or tension reading, or you know, be clever and figure out how the skill is going to fit in to the situations in which you're going to use it or experiment with it. Okay, so another definition of prestige: a person's high standing among others, honor or esteem. 3, widely recognized prominence, distinction, or importance. Again, prestige: establish authority, gain rapport, play your role, and plant seeds. So that's essentially the key to prestige here is, again, establish your authority, gain rapport, play the role that you've set out to play, and then plant seeds. And the fascinating thing is, the more accurate you are with your reading, the more likely the seeds you plant are to come true. So you can see that you can actually do really benevolent things if you want, and probably the opposite as well. So let's cover some questions so far, because I'm completely sure that the profundity of that secret might not be grasped, so I want to spend a little time on it. Because what I'm saying, you can just walk through walls with this stuff completely. Let me give another example then. So you go to do a job interview, and instead of seeing it as you being a helpless worker going to, try and win someone's favor, you show up with some research that you've done about the company ahead of time, and even to the point of knowing who you're going to meet and anything you can know about them. Then when you get there, you assess the person, assess the situation, present your data about how you're going to work with the company, what expectations you have for them. This type of stuff, you're the only person probably who's going in for that job interview who's done any of that preparation at all, and who's not just there to answer silly stock questions. So you just take over the interview on some level, even though you do it through knowing what they want. So that's how you go after jobs and stand out from other people who are going after the same thing. So that's also the prestige. You're creating your authority in the situation. You're gaining rapport with the person, playing your role, whatever that's supposed to be, and then planting seeds. And obviously, everyone, you're already doing this on some level, maybe just not as good as you could be doing with it. If you're working a job, obviously the way you act at your work is not the same as your act if you're at a festival or out somewhere. So you're already playing roles in different situations, but now you can do it with more, be more in charge of how you're doing it. All right. So again, it's establish authority, gain rapport, play your role, and plant seeds. Now still, I'm going to give you techniques that are going to make it insanely easy to use all of this right away, but the places you're going to want, you might want to train yourself. If you enjoy face reading, then you can study Paul Ekman and read about and learn about how the face expresses itself and what each of the different muscle combinations means. It takes time and effort to learn that, but once you do, then that's in the service of your mentalism, if that makes sense. So you think about how that any skills you have are in service of you as the mentalist. Once you know this stuff, it's kind of like once you know it, there's no way to turn back from it. Either you're going to apply it in your life and make your life flow as much as possible, or you'll still have obstacles and things, but you'll see how you're creating them. You'll see how they're pretend. The obstacles are only in the way of your character and his expectations of what's supposed to be going on in reality. The mentalist knows to just observe actuality and flow with it, rather than to have an imagined reality and be frustrated and upset when it doesn't match up with your character's expectations. Okay, so the mentalist is the archetype behind it all. Now, Alex says, interviews are a great example because I find a breathing rapport powerful, especially with a director manager, because if you get the job, you're sorted through the life of the job while that other person is there. Mike says, essentially, if you go in with the I got this mentality strongly enough in whatever you're doing and go with the situation, you can convince others of that. Fake it till you make it. That's true, Mike. Now, on the other hand, you can also do diligent research. You can find out all kinds of stuff about the person who's going to be interviewing you and about the company and their needs, about people they've fired and why, about problems they have that they can't solve. So when you show up, you bring your briefcase in, you open it up, and you have solutions to problems that they didn't know that you knew about yet. All right, that's the time when they start asking you what you want for a salary, rather than you kind of begging for scraps at some bullshit job. So yeah, it is fake it till you make it, but there's tons and tons of stuff you can do to make it easier on yourself. Because not everybody's great with improv. You'll get better at it with doing these kinds of readings, but not everybody wants to do improv. Some people want to do written, some people want to do real, so you can do a lot of preparation for things you're going to do, like a job interview. And you can bring paperwork to focus on and all kinds of stuff. And then you can use other, like the breathing, matching the breathing of the person doing the interview and then slowing the breathing down. That's another way you can do it. And we do that in undoing too. We just breathe along with the person. So you would do that for your job interview. Yeah, intelligent, fake it till you make it. But there's a point where you know that the Mike that's talking about faking it is also faking it. I mean, we're all faking it constantly. That's the truth of the situation. If you look at it clearly, all you can know is there's perception happening, and beyond that, everything's a guess. Even if it's has a high probability, it's still a guess. So, in that sense, the bizarre thing about all this is like the mentalist, hypnotist, stage magician and psychic reader is like the world's most honest profession, simply because it has the highest statistical chance of actually predicting the future and in some sense possibly even helping to be an architect of the future. And I mean that in a really direct way, the same way, it's the exact same thing as an architect coming up with plans for a building. I mean, if you go look at a building, like look at skyscrapers, that at some point is the idea of one person. One person is writing or drawing that out. And then it gets built, and all these people go along with the idea, whether they're doing it for a job or they're doing it for other reasons. The building gets built on that level because of the prestige of the people involved with making it happen. Okay, Alex, a lot of this requires some kind of always-on confidence, surely. What about group situations? No and no, and I'll tell you, group situations are way easier than individual situations, and there's a whole bunch of reasons behind that, but you can just test it yourself. The interesting thing is, no, you figure out, you develop a psychic persona that is close enough to your own style, and that could be a performance style that's different than your personality, whatever, but whatever you feel comfortable doing. So for example, if you feel like you don't have always on confidence, you could be the type of mentalist or psychic or whatever that is more like stuttering and kind of like, you might cover your face a lot and do different body language that you already do. Maybe you're a nervous guy just naturally. So you would find a way to put that nervousness into your you'd want to take and put that part of your personality into your act, into your persona. Okay, so what I'm saying is, don't think of yourself as not ready, or like you have to develop confidence and you have to be charming and you have to do all these things to make this work. You don't. The more just naturally yourself, even if you're a naturally nervous person, then find some movies about performers who are really nervous, or go see magicians or comedians who are nervous, and that they work the nervousness into their act. That's something you can do. Because like I said, again, at Command Z, what I want to point out all the time from every angle is that you, as you are, can already accomplish a lot of the things you want to accomplish. So once you start to do that, maybe the changes you thought you wanted to make about yourself and about your life, you don't really want to make anymore, because suddenly you just start getting more of what you want, doing more of what you want. So hopefully that makes sense. That's why we're not wasting a lot of time with a bunch of nonsense in this course. I just want to give you the direct answers, techniques you can use right away, and you can actually, in some level, scrap all the stuff you've already studied and then look at it again through new eyes, through the eyes of mentalism. And I'll give you an example. I studied the Tarot for a long time, and for so long I had this idea that it was completely magical and mystical, and that there was some angelic force that's waving around and determining what cards were going to come up. And then I had a materialistic view of it. Oh, well, everything's connected, so the card that comes up is related directly to the situation. All these kinds of excuses or explanations I gave to myself. So now, suddenly I see, okay, now that I've studied these so much, I have a mentalist toolkit. I have a psychic toolkit ready for use that doesn't require me to learn anything else. But the funny thing is, I didn't have to do any of that study at all. What you can do is just take a deck and look at what you see on the card, and that is the reading that you're giving. Now, couple that with an understanding of psychology and a list that you make of common themes that every human, or say every male, or say 80% of males, you make your list in that way, would happen to go through in their life, and what the common worries and issues of people are. Once you understand those, then you just weave those in to what you see in the cards. Okay, and then you have your reading. Yeah, and so none of it is mysterious. That's the thing I want to cut through tonight, is there's no mystery, there's no predicting the future. But the funny thing is, it really is predicting the future, but it's in a bizarre sense, because you're essentially using a form of deception in order to plant a seed, which then becomes reality. Okay, so, but if you weren't using the deception, if you were using psychology and believing in it completely, your chance of planting the seed, number one, and number two, the seed actually flowering and growing, your chances are way less. And there's a bunch of studies we can point at that I'll post in the secret group that I added you guys to. I'll post some links there to the studies about how they tested this and found this out. But basically, the study was, let's say, something like 30 people were given a personality test. They took the test. They were given their personality evaluation at the end. Another 30 people were given instead an astrology reading or a psychic reading. And then they were all asked to rate their results. Now, the people who were given the astrology reading rated it at 80 to 90% accuracy. People who were given the personality evaluation from the personality test rated it at about 40 to 50 or 60% at highest. Okay, and so what that shows, now the kicker is that everybody got the same reading. Everybody in both groups got the exact same reading. All right, now so it's showing that the prestige of each situation. And yes, it's funny. Alex is mentioning in the chat room right now. Can that have negative comebacks? I've often thought that mentalism could come back and bite you depending on what you do, or is that hocus pocus? Yeah, certainly it could if you, depending on how you set yourself up. Like for example, the people talking to the dead relatives. A good example though is watch the TV show The Mentalist, because it seems to be super well researched, and they show a bunch of clips from his life, and most of it is actually him dealing with blowback from him giving these readings and then people being upset. So yeah, that's true, Mike. And so it is sort of experimental. But the interesting thing is to note is that you're already, like I just pointed out, and it'll be bizarre when you actually realize it, but you're already doing the work of the mentalist constantly in your life by being who you are. If you're a person who's always upset and bringing that to everyone in your life, then you're helping them to be upset, and you're probably reinforcing their upset tendencies. You know what I mean? Whatever ambiance you're helping to create, even if you pretend that you're just a non-entity or an extra in your movie, you know you're still the star character, so you have influence on the people around you, whether it's positive or negative or not. And it doesn't really matter what influence you have, but what I've noticed for myself is that it's a lot more fun, and it's a lot more exciting when the influence I have on the people around me is expansive and enjoyable and fun and authentic, because I like to have that come back to me too. So I can sort of create that and surround myself with that. And a lot of people I work with through Command Z I relate to on that level as well. So yes, and Mike says, yes, once you plant the seed in anything, there's a butterfly effect which could have unintended consequences. But like I said, you're becoming the mentalist instead of the victim of reality, so to speak. For me, learning this stuff is really the only tool you ever need, really, to flow with life. Everything is just an enhancement of it from there on. I mean, think about doctors now. Doctors as a mentalist. What are they doing? What did they learn? They learned a categorization scheme of symptoms. Okay? And then they also have pressure coming on, monetary pressure and other types of pressure coming on, political pressure for certain types of prescriptions and certain types of remedies to different sets of symptoms that they call diseases. Okay, so you have a mentalist effect happening there. And then what happens when a doctor tells you you're going to die from a disease that's incurable, and then presents you with a bunch of historical information to prove it? How do you react? How do you feel about that? Versus a doctor who tells you, you know what, they say that's incurable, but actually I've seen about 1,000 cases of spontaneous remission. Now, here's what they had in common. Here's some articles. Go read that. Now, how would you react to that situation? Both of those people are calling themselves doctors, but they're playing the role totally different from each other. All right, so now you can kind of understand like the how in like the movie Catch Me If You Can, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, how he was able to pull off these things. He was working on a mentalist level as opposed to on I'm impersonating a doctor. He just knew, here's what doctors do, here's the information base they draw on, here's how they sound, here's basically how they operate, and he was able to duplicate that. Even some of the skills he was able to duplicate, which is really fascinating. So let's have some questions. What do you guys think so far? What do you want to cover? I've got a lot more notes here and a really cool technique that you can use for starting your readings right away. But let me know, what do you want to cover? What kind of questions? Can you all hear and see me all right? Is it working well? Anybody? Type in the chat room. Okay, cool. Tricksters and they don't know it sometimes. Yes. Yes, it works for me. Okay, good. There might be a slight delay here. Okay, cool. So yeah, no, that's the funny thing. Alex said tricksters and they don't know it sometimes. Yeah, I think most people alive probably don't know that they're a mentalist or haven't really thought things through on this level. And I don't know why that is. It's fascinating to me. And like I said, up until a couple months ago, I hadn't really ever looked too deeply into any of it. Who told me about it? Well, the funny thing is I've been studying it and interested in magicians and hypnosis for a while. Um, So I don't know who told me about it initially. A lot of things just gelled very recently. So I've only been implementing it in my life in, say, the last 2 months. Um, Lecter fan, yours went down for 3 minutes when I gave the secret. Well, you'll be able to watch it again in the video and have it on the PDF, so no worries. But yeah, nobody told me about it really. Um, yeah, no one told me about it. I kind of just, yeah, I kind of just pieced it together. But like I said, I don't know what all the factors are that come together to make this thing obvious. So on some level, yeah, on some level, I've been using mentalism in my life. I mean, from what I was just saying, you can say we've all been using it our whole lives, but now directly applying it without knowing it, probably for about the past 3 to 5 years since starting this business and doing this kind of work, doing the undoing work, and studying hypnosis through the HMI, the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and then other resources as well. Yeah, I'm not going to give you guys all my source material. I've told you some of it already, but I think it's a lot more fun if you piece it together yourself based on what's interesting to you, based on what you feel passionate about, and based on what you feel driven to study, because that's how I come upon this stuff. I just feel excited, and then I start following the thread, getting the skills, putting it into practice. So right now, I mean, this for me is also another practice. I got to do whatever it was, 20 or 30 readings in a really, 16 or 17 hours. Mike says, it's basically status quo. Everyone is doing it all the time, so it's not really out of the ordinary. The odd cases are when people do it constantly. Okay, that's the fascinating thing. That's why I keep trying to say it's the big, huge, crazy, fucking insane secret of mentalism, is that everyone's doing it all the time. It's just the level of prestige and awareness with which you do it that matters. That's an interesting question. Did Dr. Hyatt practice this? I don't know. Study the mentalism a little and let this sink in, and then go back and study your own teachers and see where they were at for you. See how far much aware of this they were. That's kind of a fun practice. Do I feel that I intuit? It's interesting. I do intuit. I guess the main interesting intuitive thing that happened was with Undoing when I was studying it with my former business partners, Ryan and Riley. When we were doing it together, we would sync up our breathing, and I was trying to figure out how do I show them how to intuit what exercise comes next in an organic session. For those of you who aren't aware of that, what undoing sessions are, just check the website, and I'll type in a link, because that's a fun way of exploring some of this stuff on a physical level. Anyway, when we were doing that undoing stuff together initially, and I was trying to figure out how to communicate the intuitive nature of it in a linear way, it occurred to me that we would write down, we would actually write down the exercise that came to mind. The person laying there doing the exercises would write that down on a piece of paper and fold it up, and then the other two of us would also write down what exercise we were thinking should come next. And we found that we could, with 90 or 95% regularity, have the same exercise come to mind. Now, any of you who had sessions when Riley and I were giving them together know that he and I would often be lined up, and say the same exercise at the same time when it's an organic session. So it's funny because you could just pretend you're doing an organic session, but it doesn't feel the same to you as if you're actually getting the intuitive thing. So yeah, there is some bizarre intuitive component to mentalism, but I wouldn't ascribe it any supernatural or mystical or metaphysical results or reasoning behind it. What I would say is that it's like reality as you know it now is already trickery. Okay, the way that life is working is already a form of trickery on some level. And then you're starting to become more aware of how it's all put together, how it all maintains itself in your mind and in other people's minds. And then you're going to learn to start to navigate through it in a new way with that awareness, rather than fall asleep to it. There's no reason to fall asleep to it, because it's a lot of fun to become aware. Yeah, see more patterns. Alex asks, does that mean we need to see more patterns or control more and make more patterns? Yeah, that's you. How about this? As you relax and observe and just breathe and be aware of yourself and what's going on in your life and other people's lives, and what's actually happening around you, you'll just become more aware of the patterns. But again, this isn't about manipulating. That's the funny thing. It seems like it's manipulation, but it's actually you're being more aware than everybody else around you of simple things. So just let's give a technique right now is when you first see anyone, just do a scan and look at what does their hair tell you. Is it dyed? Is it long? Is it straight? Is it curly? Has it been curled or is it naturally curly? Is there a hat on? What does the hat tell you? Is there, what's up with this collared shirt? Okay, you see a tattoo. What does that tell you? What does silver jewelry say? What does the way that I'm wearing my shirt tell you? My teeth, are they straight? Does it mean I had braces as a kid? If I had braces as a kid, that means that I perhaps had a somewhat wealthy family that could take care of me on that level. Then what else? So then what type of pants am I wearing? How do I hold myself? Am I tense? Am I covering up my face a lot? So you can just start reading in a few seconds all kinds of things. Yes, Lecter fan says like Sherlock. Yeah, exactly. It's deduction. It's all deduction, and as you go through it, you'll identify things that you're passionate or excited about, and then that's what you'll develop. That's what you'll develop. Now, this is the same if you want to become a publisher, or if you want to become a psychic reader, or if you want to become an artist. You develop whatever skill you want, but underneath it all, the real skill is the mentalism that you're practicing. Okay, and then Paula says, the more aware you are about your surroundings, the better mentalist you'll become. Is reading rather than manipulating. So yes, you're reading what's actually there rather than manipulating people. Alex says, someone said a microscope earlier. Did they? And I'm going to go back and see what else people have put in the chat room. Alex says, I wish that young doctor never told my dad he had so many months with cancer. Chemo is toxic anyway. People are heavy, and sometimes I just need to be with my own mind for 48 hours. Yeah, exactly. And I think the doctor thing is really, it's kind of scary to see, the mentalism thing. You want to find people that are aware of all this stuff. That you're going to put your trust in, I think. I would rather have someone give me a seed that I can believe and that is going to help me succeed in the future. For example, it's still going to work on me. So if I talk to a millionaire friend who's really good at something that I want to be good at, he's good at internet marketing and that stuff, and then he gives me accolades or he tells me something that I can improve, gives me advice, and gives me a prediction about my business in the next year, I'm going to automatically and unconsciously work to make that come true. All right. So that's an interesting thing. So what you want to do, and so Hyatt did pick up on that. I remember him saying something like, even if you're watching TV, even if you're, always, since we learn by mimicking, always look at characters that you want to mimic. Always study or create or watch characters that you want to mimic. So again, just following your passion. The whole key to everything is really just to sit still, sit still, face your fears, face your boredom, go through it all. And then after you've done that, realize what it is that you really like and feel motivated to do, and then actually just do it. And the funny thing is, yeah, you can make money that way. There's like 50,000 ways you can use the information that you'll get tonight to make money, and we'll cover a bunch of them. And I want you guys to brainstorm some of your own. But a couple that come to mind right away is just doing parties or dinner parties for your friends, or going to a new restaurant, a grand opening for a restaurant, and offering to do readings at it in exchange for tips. Going to the bar and doing a reading for someone in exchange for a beer. There's a million different ways you could apply it just to make money and to have fun and get results right away. So let's cover a technique that you guys can use right away. And again, type in your questions. They're coming into the chat room. If I don't get to it right away, I'll just scroll back up and get to it later. So the technique that we're going to use right now has a funny name. It's called the scam. All right? The scam. What that stands for. And actually, let me just use it first and see if somebody picks up on it. So I'll do a reading for, let's see, I'll do a reading for you, Henrik, right now. So, Henrik, I feel that you've traveled a lot in your life. And when I say a lot, I mean more than most people, probably more than most people who you grew up around, who happen to stay in their hometown for most of their life. So you've done some traveling. Maybe not as much as you'd like, and there's a few places you didn't make it to, okay, that you might want to go to still. Now, your health, even though you've faced some quasi-serious health issues, you've managed to get over them and still succeed at the things you really want to do. So health shouldn't be an issue in terms of your traveling or your life. Like we've already talked about tonight, maybe be careful about what you hear from doctors and remember the secret of mentalism when you're going to see them, because still, even though you know this information now, their influence can still be really powerful, okay? Because imagine one of the first things you see when you come out of your mother when you're born, for most of us, is a doctor. So we get imprinted with that as an authority figure in a godlike sense, more than just in a science-like sense, when most of them have never conducted any clinical experiments on the diseases that they're actually diagnosing. So try and remember that fact about how doctors operate. Anyway, but you, in any case, Henrik, already kind of know that. You're fine with navigating your own health. So just keep that up, and I think that it'll serve you well. Use food, dietary experiments to see what you can do to accentuate your health. But yeah, you're on a good path and you can keep on trucking. Beyond that, your expectations, your dreams, your desires, of course, there's loads and loads of them. I know especially for someone like you, you have a tremendous amount of exciting fantasies, dreams, and expectations that you want to make come true. And that's really possible. If you look at a character like E.J. Gold, for example, it's pretty much unlimited what you're able to do if you can actually tune into your own excitement and inspiration and motivation rather than forcing yourself to do things. So again, we're talking about being exactly how you are and who you are now, even if you're a nervous wreck, even if you consider yourself an asshole. All you do is raise your acceptance level to 100% starting now, okay, because there's no rule book, there's no hierarchy about who you're supposed to be as a person. That doesn't even exist. It only exists in your mind. So accept yourself at 100%. Then start doing what you really like, and you'll find that you can achieve a lot more of your dreams, expectations, and goals than you have up to now. All right, so be aware of that. Sexuality is important to you. Henrik, I hate to say it in front of everyone, but we know it is. And it's something that you really enjoy in your life. So when you can align your sexual interest in sexual experimentation, and if you keep doing more of the undoing stuff, even just the YouTubes, and figure out ways to experiment with that sexually, you're going to be able to find a partner that not only satisfies you on a physical level, but also on an intellectual, on an adventure, in a deeper life level. So keep going with that. But yeah, just tune into what it is you really want sexually. And that might not be something you've done very much of up to now. It might just been more circumstantial than deliberate. So see what you can do to make it more deliberate, and maybe it'll be more fun that way as well. Now your career, I know that you would like to have art be even a bigger part of your career, and that's definitely possible, especially if you use some of these mentalist techniques from tonight. But up to now, art's been really influential for you, and it'll continue to be so. And I see that, again, once you learn the secret of mentalism, you realize making career changes any time in your life is actually possible. You're never too young or too old. So that being said, the career of your choice is available to you. And part of how I know that is that you're here tonight going to a workshop like this. All right, and so your ambition, you're a very ambitious person, but what I want to point out is that if you think back to the times when you've sort of abandoned your own, what you might call ego ambitions, and settled in to what you really, really enjoy and what's obvious to you, what's obviously inspiring to you, then those times have been where you got a lot more out of life, even though it was surprising, than when you actually achieved goals through more manipulative means. All right, so I hope that makes sense, and you know what situation I'm talking about. Now, in terms of money, hopefully that the experience you're having tonight will improve your financial situation. Not to say it's bad now, but the more skills and the more streams of it you have coming, the better, of course. And so if you remember those times in your life when the money wasn't really an issue, you just buy whatever you want, don't consider the price. That's the way that we want to engage with money. That's the way you need to engage with money for it to be something exciting and fun in your life rather than a game that you play that you always lose at. So yeah, it can be more like a fun toy, like playing with coins, spinning them around rather than something that causes you a lot of stress. All right, so that's a reading right there. That would be a 5 or 10 minute reading that you can do right away. How did that reading sound to you guys? How did that sound to everybody? I know, it's still one of my early attempts, so let me know what works, what doesn't, and how that felt to you, how the flow goes. I mean, some of this is, I'm really used to talking to clients and stuff like that. Cool, great. So people said sexuality, career, art, money, lots of information. Yes, it flowed, the ups and downs and pickups at the end. And Henrik says spot on. Felt as if it was genuine. Now, the funny thing is, it is genuine. That's the bizarre thing about it. It's genuine. I mean, what else could it be? So it's funny, because actually the less you've studied other things, probably the more genuine it's actually going to be. Alex says, in my PDF, G, you mentioned a wardrobe. You picked up on something there. And of course, I'm not going to explain everything about all of this because there's still, it's fun to leave some wonder and mystery. I want everybody to explore together. So, the scam, we're going to cover what the scam stands for. So we're going to go T stands for travel. All right. H stands for health. E stands for expectations. S stands for sexuality. You can also include relationships in that. And I'm just told that there is a delay in the recording, yeah. So when I'm just sitting here staring and waiting to see stuff happen in the chat room, that's what's happening. And maybe we'll cut some of that out when I do the video. But yeah, we're dealing with the delay. So that's the only downfall of the technology here. Still pretty marvelous. Travel, health, expectations, sexuality, career is the C. A is ambition, and M is for money. Now Alex is saying, I don't think I'd be good at padding this stuff out, but then I haven't tried this yet. Now Alex, I want you to think about how many times you've told yourself that about other things too, not just this skill. Because maybe tonight, just as part of this show, we can move you past that. There's no reason you can't move you past that. I think when the first time you go out and make like $40 or $50 for doing a reading like this, it'll help you just completely blow through that obstacle. And like I said, it's not a problem. It's just an aspect of who you're being right now. But tonight you could be somebody different and take that new personality out. Like, I'll give you a story for yourself right now. Just one I thought of using was, say that you went to an old Masonic lodge and you broke in a long time ago and you're a kid. You still kind of feel bad about it, but you went up in the attic, and among all these old bizarre costumes that were all dusty, you opened up a box and you took out this old book. And the book also, in the same box, there was some little tiny bits of unpolished ruby and emerald. And you opened up the book and you found this bizarre ritual in there. And it was something about how to be a psychic. And you took the wine that you found from downstairs in the kitchen, brought it up there, crushed the ruby and the emerald according to what it said, drop it into your wine. You drank it, and now you started getting these impressions about people, and particularly from noon to 3 p.m. you get those impressions. Now, normally you're a nervous guy, but ever since you got those impressions, you felt like you really should try to bring this out because you know it can help people and change their lives. And you feel so overwhelmed with the fact that you need to share this great information with people that you just do it anyway. Does that make sense? Alex, that's how you would kind of put together, and that's just on the fly. You could actually spend a lot of time with it in writing, but creating a psychic personality that you could go out and use really right away. Yeah, now, so here's the funny thing, that's the hard way. Using that thing, the scam, that's actually the hard way to do your psychic readings. But what you remember is those are the general areas of concern that people have, is in those topics. And then once you know that in common, you know that the people you're talking to, depending on the situation, of course, but that the people you're talking to are talking to you for some reason. They have some worry or concern in their life. And so you can start to identify what that concern is by using the scam, where you start to notice, as soon as you bring up health, you might start to notice them react. Now, are they reacting in a happy way or a sad way? So you start to identify what their expectations are, and then start to hone in on it, and then you can plant a positive seed there in the place. And that's how you do a successful reading, is identifying what the expectation is of the person, what their deepest worry is, and then addressing that in a positive way. And then now here's some other things, is 80% of the reading you do will actually not be predictions. 80% to 90% of the reading will just be statements about the past or present. And you get enough of those right on that then the other 10% can be the seeds that you plant, the predictions. But you just want to plant a few really good ones rather than a bunch. Cool, Alex, so you get this. Okay, good. So yeah, so maybe if you want to feel more confident, you spend more time developing your psychic character. I come up with all kinds of different ways to describe it, ways to understand it. But there's no reason to be afraid of doing this. And you just have to remember that you're already doing it. You're already doing it as Alex. You know what I mean? So maybe a new name will help you create it. Lance, he's in the chat room right now, shared a story with me about when he just got a new hat and some clothes and a new sort of persona he had when he went to LA. Lance, if you want to comment in the chat room about that, and of course we'll wait for the delay to take place. And Lance says it was unbelievable, the effect it had for him to just try a new set of clothes and a new personality to go out and walk around in. And actually he had some somewhat self-fulfilling prophecies that somewhat came true from that experience. He says, me and my girlfriend were laughing our asses off. Yeah. And I remember talking to him during that time, and it's remarkable what just the difference in your wardrobe can make, but then also the difference in how you perceive yourself. So again, let's cover the scam. It's travel. I'm not going to type it all in again, but you guys can see it there. That's the only one you really need. And then what you do, so I was saying, to do psychic readings using that, it's more difficult to do it just without any intermediary. Okay, so what one person calls psychic crutches is something like the tarot deck, the palm. If you're a touchy-feely person, you might want to do palm reading, and you can hold their hand, and then some people can sense if there's the difference between a yes or no answer, for example, when you're holding the palm. So you could ask a bunch of answers where you know the answer is yes, and then ask some where you know the answer is no, and try to feel the difference. Then you can start to hone in on things, like get them to, you can guess a number that they're thinking of by asking yes or no questions. Does that make sense? So you can use that, use an intermediary between you and the person while you're getting used to doing the banter. So you use like the tarot cards, so you can just always be looking down. With the psychic thing, you can kind of cover your eyes like you're getting impressions, but it's still probably a lot more nerve-wracking to do the psychic reading directly than it is to do the cards or the palm. Or if you have an astrology chart, you have a whole bunch of reliable psychological descriptions you can use. So if you've studied astrology, you already have some skills in that area. Study tarot, use the tarot. You could do a Kabbalah reading. You could do dice. You could do, Lon Milo Duquette's book. What was that called? Something about everything's an oracle. I don't remember the actual, or the Oracle of Everyday Life. I don't know what it was called, but in that book he gives you ideas of all these different oracles you could use. So now you could use those with what you've learned here tonight to go out and do your readings. And then you might have to test to see what's more successful in your area. If you do tarot readings or if you do palm readings, what one's going to generate more money for you in a shorter amount of time. So one guy tried doing a psychic fair. He was at a psychic fair, and he was the only one who just had his table. He was doing psychic readings. Everyone else was doing card readings or astrology or palm. All the other people made tons of money. He didn't make any because he was set up at his table as a psychic. But he could probably go out and make a lot of money, but he'd have to work on his presentation. Maybe at a fair you want to have the intermediary. Now the other thing is, if you go to so the bar, you have different things. You can learn a trick that involves the dollar and the beer. Learn some tricks for use of the bar, a card trick. And another interesting one is I combine a card trick with the tarot psychic readings, which then sets up the stage for me being psychic when I pull their card. And if I don't get it, it's because I'm not tuned into them, so I'll breathe and tune in, and then I'll get it the second time. Sometimes you can deliberately get it wrong to do that effect, if you want to draw it out a little bit. So yeah, you can use it to make money right away. Like I said, you can just go out in the public, set some tarot cards up on a table, put up a sign, or you can try to go negotiate with restaurant owners, business owners, see if you can do it during their luncheon. If people are having a festival, do it at a festival. If someone's doing it, you might want to memorize some scripts in the beginning, but you want it to be really natural. So that's why I'm not giving you any scripts. I'm giving you the structure from which you'd make your scripts. And then you can identify on your own. You can use psychological types. You could read Jung. You could read Wilhelm Reich's archetypes. You could read anything you want, really. You can use mythology. You could do a mythology reading for someone. You can do a past life reading for someone. You can do cosmic analysis. Now, another, Paulo mentioned just now, responsibility, what level of responsibility you have in this. It's interesting because it is something to think about, just mainly for your own safety and for your own. You want to keep yourself clean in this business, I think. So, in order to look at responsibility in this light, you'd want to be aware of what seeds you're planting and how those could manifest for people, and then why you're doing it, and not really getting your ego involved in it as much. Just because you're going to have a lot more fun results from it. But like I said, the main way to take responsibility in your life that I've found is that you let go, stop reacting out of fear, start feeling what it is you really want, and then follow that inspiration and motivation rather than manipulate through life to get what you want. And that way you'll automatically just be taking responsibility for yourself. You'll be who you are, and you make that work. All right, so what do you guys have? Any questions so far? We got another 10 minutes or so. We can cover some things. I'll go through my notes. So there's some noises happening out here. It's your spirit guides outside trying to come in so I can give you information. All right, so, okay, it's the mystical garage door is now communicating messages to me apparently. Anyway, some of the notes I have for you, that stuff we didn't really get into, cover that mentalism is in everything, and all studies really lead up to it. Okay, so I want you guys on your own to follow this to its logical conclusion. If I said the secret of all mentalism is the prestige, and also that the secret of how reality works is mentalism, I want you guys to figure out that equation for yourself. Find out if it's true or not for yourself. What's my opinion on the spirits and bad entities making some psychic reader say some things? Alex, that's not really a question. I want you to look at it really clearly and tell me what it is you're really trying to ask, and try and examine any unquestioned assumptions in your question there first. Clean it up, and then type it again in a clear way, and then I'll try and answer it for you. So here's some more finer points behind all this. Basically, if you're able to listen and observe deeply and have a conversation with someone, you're able to do successful psychic readings. You're able to change their life and your life in a positive way, basically. The secret of all mentalism, and mentalism is everything really, is the prestige required to make it real. The prestige required to make it real. So everyone is basically the same. And as you understand more about people, you can categorize them into more and more specific categories for your reading. And readings go from general to specific as you gain more and more data. Again, in your readings, I want you to do 80 to 90% observations about the present and the past, and then you're going to spend 10 to 20% of time doing predictions. Use the word potential instead of prediction, because potential is going to be more readily identifiable and agreeable than prediction. And it also shows they have some responsibility. We've got another question coming in here. And now one thing I want to mention also, I used to do tarot readings for people in Eugene. They would just come up and see me working with the cards and ask me for a reading. After a while, people insisted on paying me. First it was $10, then it was $20, and sometimes it was even $40 and more, so I kept on doing them. Then after a while, I didn't want to do tarot readings anymore. I thought it was all bullshit. Now finally I'm coming back around to seeing exactly how powerful it is, and this time around I can flow effortlessly with it. It's amazing, and it's a lot of fun. Do you want to help people? Is that something a lot of people say they want to help people? I often think that's a sort of like a way of denying that your own self-interest and everything. But if you really want to help people, this, as far as I can tell, is the fastest and simplest way to help people make dramatic and radical changes and expansions in their life. You just figure out what seeds to plant, in what soil to plant them, and then do it. So this is probably the fastest and simplest way to help people make dramatic changes. But at the same time, you get to have fun. You get to be an entertainer. You get to create a new character. It's on a lot of levels. It's pretty cool. Another aspect of this to remember, everyone is hypnotized nearly all the time. So in a way, some of this is you're de-hypnotizing. Especially now, this presentation, we're trying to de-hypnotize and step back and back and back from all the mediated contexts over and over. And, just become more and more aware of that. Now, for your presentation, the specifics of your mentalism are going to be determined by your audience, the setting in which you're operating, and the aids or props, if any, you're going to use for each situation. All right, so you want to identify those things, know what setting you're in, and then you'll be able to tell who your audience is, so that by the time you get there, you already know a lot about the people there. Now, someone asked earlier, is it easier to do an individual or a group? It's easier to do a group than it is to do an individual, with a lot of caveats, okay, and exceptions. But it's easier to do a group because, watch that, is it John Edwards, who's the ghost guy on TV? He sets up his whole audience, he walks out and he starts saying things, and then as he gets more and more specific, he knows that someone in the audience is going to react, and he looks for the person reacting. Then he taps into their reaction, and then he can go further from there and identify who the dead person is that's communicating with. with her. I don't know if he's a conscious or unconscious charlatan. I would say conscious. When you're communicating with the dead, it's almost certainly that way. But Alex, let's have you rephrase that question. I don't mean to single you out, but I know that you'll get a lot out of it if you can rephrase that question, and we'll deal with it then. So, one thing I wanted to mention is that mentalism doesn't come from an external source. It's actually all your own perception. So that's something to keep in mind. It'll make the prestige make more sense. Is that it's not like it comes from it's not something else you study and then you do. It's that you're already doing it. It already is how you become you, or what you think you are, and how reality becomes reality. And so you start to navigate in it with that new awareness. Okay, rather than fight it or be at war with yourself. No reason to be at war. There's not even any reason to really change yourself if you look at it clearly. But you'll automatically change and become aligned with your own reality by using these techniques. Oh, okay. That's all right, Alex. But what I'd say, if I tried to piece a question together out of it, I would say, what's your opinion on the so-called spirits and bad entities that some people claim make psychic readers say maybe some apparently negative things? My opinion on that, I think it's just a bunch of bullshit. People are either conscious or unconscious charlatans on some level. I don't think there are spirits or bad entities making anyone say anything. But someone asked Henrika, he's an immoral swine. How could you recreate him as a contribution? Let's see here. Lecture fan says he's an immoral swine. Who is that you're referring to? Okay, so let's see. How could you recreate him as a contribution? I'm not sure exactly who. Oh, John Edward. Yeah. He might be an amoral swine. Yeah, it seems pretty ridiculous. People are, like I said, people are either conscious or unconscious charlatans about this stuff. And then if you're the conscious one, you can become more of a trickster and have a lot of fun and change people's life. Someone is actually also writing about recommending certain books as a reference, and I don't know what actually books they're referring to. So if we come up with those, I'll put them in the group later. Actually, if you want to type in the chat room, that's fine too. Okay, so all of this stuff relies on a person having beliefs in external authority and placing those beliefs higher than in their own direct experience. That's the whole key. Everything else works on that principle, including what you call reality. Now, a person without a belief in external authority has no need to believe in any specific modality of communication and chooses between flow or not at any given point. The secret of mentalism is that people will create what you predict for them to create. Since you know that the future is always open-ended and people are always more resourceful than they think they are, mentalism can be used to create the future. Now, the real secret, on some level, and I want you to, don't take my word for it, investigate it for yourself, is that in essence we're living in more of a dream state that's been created by a grand act of mentalism. And within that state, all the bizarre rules of mentalism and hypnosis and all those things apply. It's a tool of flow and nothing more. So what we're experiencing is sort of a clever and playful situation almost all of the time. And some of the favorite playthings that you can find to mess around with are stage magic, hypnosis, mentalism, readings, and whatnot. And then the rest of your life can be more playful in that same way. But it's all made up. Even your own personal story, it's all made up. And Mike just mentions, in light of the prestige angle, Alejandro Jodorowsky's book, Psychomagic, is all about this. But yeah, now any book on symbols too, you can use. Now people are, obviously you read them, they're more or less conscious of this mentalism secret. For some reason, it just doesn't seem to me like most people have become aware of it on this level. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. And then I was going to say the final thing I want to close with, because we're coming to an hour and a half here. And like I said, this is the only time I'm ever putting this out. You guys will have access to the video, but everything else I'm going to take down. And I'd appreciate it if you don't spread it around and share it. Remember that the more you keep this to yourself, all this stuff and the secret of mentalism, the more you keep it to yourself or within the group of us studying it or other people studying it with you, the more powerful it'll be in your life. Again, there's some exceptions. You can be the type of mentalist who exposes it at the same time as being a mentalist, but that's harder. It takes more skill. So the number one rule of mentalism is that there's no such thing as mentalism. So don't just go telling everybody else about it. Any questions? Because other than that, I'm going to get off the line and create the PDF for you so you can remember all this stuff and go about making it work. Now, any other questions you guys have, you're part of the secret group, you can ask me all the questions you want in there, and I'll answer them when I feel so inclined. And you guys can work with each other, practice giving each other readings over Facebook chat, video chat, or in person. If you'd like, those of you who live in London, you guys could skyrocket your skills in a weekend. Just meet up together and practice stuff. Don't be shy. Or if you're shy, make shyness part of your practice then. That makes sense? I won't let you use your so-called character flaws as an excuse for not succeeding anymore, okay? So from now on, you can't do that. You don't have access to those. Let's just pretend you actually are capable of doing everything you want, starting now, and that you realize that it was just a trick you're playing on yourself, convincing yourself that you weren't capable of it. Does it make sense? So just go ahead. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to hang up on the line. I know there's a delay here, but I think we covered everything I want to cover tonight. Probably even a little more. Let me see. I might have some text here from Dave. Sorry, Dave, if I didn't answer anything. Dave says, I found that the more self-aware I become, the easier it is to read others. Does that apply for mentalism and to build on? And I'd say, yeah, like we always say in Undoing, the more you become aware, the less you have to do. The more aware you are, the less you have to do. We always say that. Dave also says, what was the H and the E? So we'll cover again real quick the scam. Travel, health, expectations, sex, career, ambition, and money. Now you can come up with your own acronym too. You just figure out what are the common problems and issues people have and then address those. That's all you have to do. Dave also said, just had a thought, improv readings with music and song lyrics on stage. Exactly, yeah, you can do improv songs. You think of what you like to do, and then you can think of an awesome way to use mentalism to enhance it and have fun with it and make money and all that. You just insert yourself into new situations, create jobs, whatever you want to do. Take over the world, build an army. I mean, I don't know. Build a library, start an architecture firm, do whatever you want. Publish books. Watch the movie. What is it called? The Life Aquatic, and you see a great example of it. All the characters on there that are supposedly like Jacques Cousteau and stuff are people who were just like mechanics and regular folks who were like, let's become famous ocean explorers. And they just did it. So yeah, hopefully you guys all, we've crumbled some walls for you, and you can, walk out and give some readings tonight and feel more free than you did before we started. If so, then we've accomplished what I set out to accomplish in an hour and a half. But yeah, make no excuses for yourself. Just get out and try this and have a lot of fun. All right. And yeah, so anybody, like I said, you can ask questions in the group online or send me emails. But yeah, no more of this is going to be public for me, and hopefully not for you guys either. It's a lot more fun when you take it out and use it. So yeah, but don't wait. Don't wait. If you wait, then you're gonna lose the inspiration and not do it. So get out there and try this stuff right away. Try it tonight. Try it with family. Call somebody on the phone and just don't even tell them you're doing it. Whatever. Give it a shot. All right, folks. Talk to you soon. Have a good night. And I'll send out the PDF and the video link soon.